Hi everybody, TJ Mac Vintage Cards here, and today is episode 6 of Through the Cardboard. Before you had greats like the Minister of Defense, Reggie White, Bruce Smith, LT, the late, great Kevin Green, and Chris Dolman. You had this guy right here, David Jones. Now, the NFL did not start officially recording the sack as a statistic until 1982, and the all-time leader is Bruce Smith with 200, Reggie White with 198, and in third place is Kevin Green with 160. Now, there was some research that was done by historian John Turney, who said Jones amassed 173.5 sacks in his career. Unfortunately, that's an unofficial statistic, but would have placed him third all-time. Jones was one of the greatest defensive ends in history. And as the title of this video said, before there was a minister in Reggie White, who was an actual ordained minister, you had the great David Deacon Jones. Now, what's interesting about how he got that name is he gave it to himself. He had said that no one would remember a player named David Jones. There are thousands of David Jones in the phone book, he reasoned. I picked out Deacon because it has a religious connotation and it would be remembered in the violent pro football world. When the Rams sent out my player questionnaire, I simply listed my name as Deacon Jones. From then on, that is what I was called, Deacon. Now, he also coined the name sack. And it's unfortunate that he had so many of them that they didn't get recorded, even though he's the one that invented the name. And he said this: we needed a shorter term. I gave it some thought and came up with the term sack. Like, a sack on a city, to devastate it. And the word is so short, you can even get Deacon in front of Jones in some headlines. Deacon Jones records a sack. And boy, did this guy make a lot of headlines. It was said that Deacon had 26 sacks in 1967, which would have been an NFL record, and he had 24 in 1968. Now, Deacon, he came out of a very small school called Mississippi Vocational College, and it was later named Mississippi Valley State. And there was another great player that came out of that college, and for those San Francisco 49er fans, it was this guy right here, the great Jerry Rice. So you could have two of the greatest players at their position come out of little old Mississippi Valley State. Pretty incredible when you think about it. And Deacon was also a 14th round draft pick. He's the only 14th round draft pick in the NFL Hall of Fame. And there are only 7 other later draft picks that are in the Hall of Fame than where Deacon was drafted. Now, Deacon's signature move that he had was a head slap. So what he would do is when he came off the line, he would slap his opponent's helmet and get him to blink, and then he would run around him. This was a legal move at the time, so there was no issue with that. And Deacon actually had a reputation for being a very clean player. I read a nice quote by Fran Tarkenton that said, I played against him probably 1,000 times, slight exaggeration. Never once did he hit me below the knees. Never once did he try to clothesline me. Never once did he have a dirty play. He was a fair player and a great player. Now, along with his great playing skills and performances, Jones was certainly remembered as a colorful, unconventional manner, both on and off the field, and his cocky, confident, highly quotable utterances. He says, I'm the best defensive end around. And I'll be honest with you, when you see the footage on this guy, it would be pretty hard to argue it. Now, what I have here are all of his Topps cards that were issued. He didn't get cards in every single year, but the ones he did have, I have in my collection, and I'll show these off a little more slowly. Here's a 63 Topps, and notice he's Dave Jones in these early years. He didn't have a card in 64, so here's a 65, 66, still going by Dave in 67. There he is in 69. If you scroll down here, you see the first time he was called Deacon in 1970. He was on the Rams in 71. And Then he went to the Chargers, and here he is in 72, 73, 74. He actually played for the Redskins in 74 under his old coach, George Allen, from the Rams days. And in his last game, he convinced Allen to let him kick an extra point, which he made, which I thought was pretty cool. So here's my profile of the great Deacon Jones. Hopefully you learned a few things about him, and I'm just happy to show this off to everybody and wish everybody a great day.